Before the story begins, allow your body to settle. If everything you have carried through the day may now be placed down, let the surface beneath you hold your weight. Lower your shoulders. Soften your hands and jaw. Let your breathing find its own quiet pace. Breathe in slowly and breathe out gently. You may close your eyes whenever you are ready. There is nowhere to go and nothing to complete. You may simply follow one man's journey home through a rainy night in Singapore. His name is Daniel. He works at Changi Airport, moving passengers' luggage. While travelers leave with light steps, Daniel lifts the bags they leave behind. He unloads them from carts, places them on conveyor belts, and pushes them into aircraft holds. For hours he has bent, lifted, turned, and lowered one weight after another. As the hours passed, the handles pressed more deeply into his palms. His fingers became stiff inside his gloves. An invisible weight remained across both shoulders. Each time he straightened his back, the muscles beneath it pulled slowly. His legs carried him again and again across the wet ground beneath the aircraft. Rain crossed the runway in silver lines beneath the airport lights. Red and blue lights blinked through it. Aircraft engines moved faintly through the wet ground. Daniel stood beside the final aircraft of his shift. His reflective vest was damp. Water fell from the edge of his cap. His uniform clung to his back. Only one suitcase remained at his feet, a large blue case with a silver ribbon tied around the handle. On any other night, it would have looked ordinary, but now it seemed unusually low and heavy against the ground. Daniel stood before it for a moment. He took one slow breath. Then he bent down. He closed both hands around the handle and gathered what remained in his knees and back. The suitcase rose. His arms were pulled downward. His shoulders tightened. A deep pressure moved through his lower back. Daniel held the case close to his body and carried it to the conveyor belt. Then he lowered it carefully. The moment he released the handle, his arms felt suddenly empty. The conveyor belt began to move. The blue suitcase traveled upward. The silver ribbon shifted. Then the case disappeared inside the aircraft hold. Nothing remained on the belt. Daniel turned off the machine. The low mechanical sound faded. No voice came through the radio. No one called his name. There was no bag waiting at his feet. The work was finished. He remained there for a moment. His arms hung loosely, his fingers stayed partly closed, and his back leaned slightly forward. He rolled one shoulder slowly, but the muscles moved only a little. He looked across the rain-covered runway. A service vehicle passed over the wet ground. Farther away, An aircraft moved toward the runway. Its deep engine sound rested beneath the rain. Daniel no longer needed to move toward that sound. He did not need to check another time or count another bag. Only the journey home remained. He removed his gloves. Handle marks crossed his palms. He opened his fingers slowly until they relaxed. Daniel placed the gloves in his pocket and began walking toward the staff entrance. His boots touched the wet ground. One step, and after a moment another. His pace was slower than usual. He passed a long row of empty baggage carts. Their metal frames shone beneath the airport lights. They too seemed to have finished their work for the night. A coworker raised one hand. "See you tomorrow." Daniel answered with a small nod. Inside the staff building, the aircraft engines became distant. The corridor was cool. Daniel reached the changing room and stopped beside a bench. Then his whole body dropped onto it. His legs no longer held him upright. His back rested against the wall. His head leaned back. His eyes closed on their own. Changing his clothes and walking to the bus stop seemed far away, but home held a pillow, a mattress, and a warm blanket. With that single thought, Daniel slowly opened his eyes. He changed out of his damp uniform and put on a dry shirt. He folded the work clothes loosely and placed them in his bag. There was no need to arrange them carefully tonight. He lifted the bag onto his shoulder and stepped outside again. Rain was still falling. Daniel opened his umbrella. At the end of the covered walkway, the bus stop waited. Behind him, aircraft arrived. Then service vehicles moved and travelers crossed the terminal. But Daniel walked farther from it all. Farther from the runway, farther from the aircraft engines, farther from the weight of the bags, and little by little, closer to the place where his own weight could finally be set down. The airport bus stop was nearly empty. Rain struck the metal roof in a steady rhythm. Daniel sat at the end of the bench and placed his bag beside his feet. When the strap left his shoulder, the place beneath it slowly released. He rested both arms across his thighs. His hands hung loosely. After carrying weight for so many hours, his arms seemed unwilling to do anything more. Daniel lowered his head. The muscles behind his neck pulled, and his whole body wanted to fold forward. He leaned against the back of the bench. Cold metal touched his back. It should have felt uncomfortable, but being supported was enough. Daniel closed his eyes. Rain fell over the roof. Vehicles passed along the airport road. In the distance, an aircraft engine sounded low and steady, but these sounds no longer meant that he needed to move. An aircraft could pass without him standing. A cart could roll by without him reaching for it. He only needed to wait. A few minutes later, headlights appeared through the rain. The city bus approached slowly. Its tires moved over the wet road with a soft rush of water. The bus stopped and the doors opened. Daniel opened his eyes. When he tried to stand, his legs did not respond at once. He placed one hand on the bench. He pushed down once and slowly rose. The moment he lifted his bag, his shoulder dropped again. Daniel stepped onto the bus. He tapped his travel card. A small electronic sound followed. The driver gave a quiet nod. Daniel returned it. Only a few passengers were inside. Two airport cleaners sat farther back, and one already rested against the window. Daniel watched her for a moment and continued toward the large window seat. The distance was only a few steps. Still, it seemed far. He placed his bag between his feet and lowered himself into the seat. His whole body sank into the cushion. As soon as his back and shoulders touched the seat, the effort holding him upright seemed to disappear. His shoulders dropped. His lower back moved slowly into the cushion. His legs no longer needed to hold his body. The doors closed. The bus began to move. Airport lights slid across the window. The terminal, taxi lanes, covered walkways and baggage roads. All moved farther away. Rain traveled down the glass. Small drops joined together and formed long lines. Daniel tried to look outside, but the lights would not stay in focus. Their shapes softened and spread across the wet window. The bus turned gently. Daniel's body moved to one side. He did not tighten his muscles to correct the movement. He allowed the bus to carry him with the turn. The seat held his back. The wall beside the window supported his shoulder. The bus was holding him upright now. A low engine sound rose from beneath the floor. The vibration moved through his boots, through his calves, through his thighs, and slowly into his back. Wherever it reached, the tightness beneath his muscles softened a little. The engine continued evenly. Rain touched the window, and the tires whispered over the wet road. Daniel rested his head against the wall beside the glass. The cool surface touched his temple. He closed his eyes. With his eyes closed, the weight of his body became clearer. His head, shoulders, arms, back, and legs all seemed to move downward. But he no longer needed to carry that weight himself. The seat held his back. The floor held his feet. The wall held his head. The entire bus was carrying him. At a red light, Daniel opened his eyes for a moment. The airport control tower glowed in the distance. An aircraft crossed above the road. Its landing lights passed through the rain. But Daniel did not watch for long. His eyelids lowered again. The bus moved forward. The airport became smaller behind him. The aircraft engines faded. The low bus engine came closer. At the airport, an engine meant movement and work. Here it meant the bus was moving for him. Daniel only needed to remain seated. He breathed out slowly. As the breath left, his chest and shoulders lowered. His hands rested loosely on his thighs. His fingers curled slightly. The bus entered the expressway. Its speed increased. Rain moved diagonally across the glass. Singapore's lights appeared in the distance. Tall buildings reflected across the wet road. Daniel did not try to examine them closely. The city remained only as color: white light, yellow light, red light. Even behind his closed eyes, the colors seemed to drift slowly. Each time the bus moved from side to side, Daniel's body followed. The motion felt like a slow and quiet rocking. It no longer seemed that Daniel was taking himself home. The bus was carrying him there. All night he had moved bags from one place to another. Now the bus was moving him from work toward home. He no longer needed to transport his own body. The driver knew the road. The wheels followed the wet pavement. The steady engine and rain carried him closer, quietly, without hurry, moving as though they did not wish to wake his body. The final stop on this bus was Daniel's stop. He did not need to listen for its name, count the stops, or look outside. When the bus reached the end of the route, the driver would let him know. Until then, Daniel did not need to do anything. The low engine continued beneath the floor. Rain moved down the window. The driver guided the bus along the wet road without hurry. At every curve, the bus leaned to one side and returned gently. Daniel's body moved with it. His head rested beside the window. His shoulders lowered farther. His hands remained on his thighs. He no longer checked where the bus was going. The driver knew the road. The bus knew the final stop. Daniel only needed to rest against the seat. Time became difficult to measure. The rain continued. The engine continued. His body moved a little deeper into the cushion. His arms remained still. His back sank farther into the seat. His legs felt warm beneath an invisible blanket. His fingers quieted. His shoulders lowered. and the tension in his back loosened. Apartment buildings passed outside. Some windows were dark and some held warm light. Daniel kept his eyes closed. The city remained only as distant light and softened sound. The bus stopped. The doors opened. Cool air entered for a moment. Footsteps passed. Then the doors closed and the bus moved again. Each sound traveled around Daniel and faded away. He seemed to rest beneath deep water. Above him, rain, road, and engine continued. Below them, everything moved slowly. The bus climbed a hill. The engine deepened. The low vibration touched Daniel's back and moved softly through the muscles. He remembered the bags from the night. A black suitcase, a red suitcase, a golf bag, a folded stroller, the final blue case. But in his memory, the bags had lost their weight. In a dim, dreamlike place, they moved slowly along a conveyor belt. Daniel did not touch them. They traveled by themselves. One after another, they moved into the aircraft hold. He did not lift, reach, or bend. The final blue suitcase moved along the belt. Its silver ribbon shifted gently. Then the case disappeared into the dark. Inside the real bus, Daniel's fingers loosened. His palms opened. He breathed out slowly. The bus crossed a bridge. Beyond the rain-covered glass, Singapore's lights appeared softly. Marina Bay sands glowed above the water. The Singapore flyer rested like a pale circle in the distance. Then the view disappeared beneath his closed eyelids. Nothing needed to be examined now. The bus continued. Rain remained steady. Daniel's breathing began to follow the rhythm of the road. The engine sounded low. His chest rose slowly. The bus rocked gently, and his breath moved out and out more slowly now. The edge between his body and the seat began to fade. He could no longer tell where his back ended and the cushion began. His body seemed to dissolve into the support beneath him. The rain covered the world outside. The engine covered every other thought. One thought began to form but did not reach its end. Then for a while, nothing remained. After some time, the bus began to slow. The vibration beneath the floor became softer. The doors opened. Daniel did not move at once. Then the driver's low, gentle voice reached him. The last stop. The voice did not hurry him. It only told him that the road had ended. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. No other passengers remained. Rain continued beyond the window. He placed one hand on the seat and slowly raised himself. Daniel gave the driver a small nod. Then he stepped down at the final stop. The doors closed behind him. Red lights moved away through the rain. The bus engine disappeared around the corner. Only the rain remained. Daniel's apartment building stood at the end of the walkway. He began to walk. One step and then another, past the empty playground, the wet garden, and the dark windows. His feet knew the way. They carried him forward without thought. The warm light above the entrance came closer. Daniel raised his key card. The door opened, and he stepped inside. The apartment lobby was quiet. Daniel closed his umbrella and entered the lift. He rested against the wall until a soft chime sounded. Then he walked slowly along the familiar corridor. He unlocked his apartment and stepped inside. When the door closed, the outside world became distant. Only the rain remained beyond the windows. Daniel placed his bag on the floor and removed his vest and wet boots. They could remain where they were. He went directly to the bathroom. Warm water fell across his shoulders. The rain and sweat of the airport moved away beneath the short stream. He washed quickly, dried himself, changed into soft clothes, and went directly to the bedroom. Nothing else needed to be done. The rain continued outside. Drops touched the window and the leaves beyond it. The bedroom was dark. A warm blanket weighted across the bed. Daniel pulled it back and lowered himself onto the mattress. His body did not settle lightly. It dropped deeply, as though releasing the final weight it had carried through the night. His head reached the pillow. The strength left his neck. His shoulders, back, and legs sank into the mattress. All night, his body had lifted weight, crossed the wet runway, pushed carts, bent down, and raised heavy cases. Now his body felt like cotton soaked in water. His arms, his legs, even his head moved slowly downward. But the heaviness was not uncomfortable. The bed accepted all of it. Daniel pulled the blanket over his body. The soft fabric reached his shoulders. Cool skin slowly became warm. The remaining warmth of the shower spread beneath the blanket. Daniel pressed his head a little deeper into the pillow. It held his neck as though it had been waiting for him. The mattress held his back. The pillow held his head, and the blanket surrounded him. He no longer needed to support any part of himself. He breathed out slowly. The breath was long and easy. As it left, his body moved farther into the bed. His shoulders lowered. His back softened. His legs rested beneath the blanket, warm and still. His eyelids became heavier. A faint thought appeared. There was nothing more he needed to do. But even that thought did not reach its end. The feeling in his fingertips became distant. His breathing lengthened on its own. The room began to move farther away. The fingers that had held so many suitcase handles now held nothing. His palms opened, his wrists softened, and his arms rested beneath the blanket. The tightness between his neck and shoulders melted into the warmth. His back rested fully against the mattress. It no longer needed to hold him upright. The legs that had carried him across the runway and home could remain warm and still beneath the blanket. Rain continued beyond the window, softly and evenly across the dark Singapore night. It still touched the runway and the roads the bus had traveled, but Daniel was far from those places now. He was home. Clean clothes rested against his skin. Warm water had washed the night away. The blanket covered him. This was the place his body had been moving toward. Daniel curled slightly beneath the blanket. Warmth surrounded his back, his chest, and his stomach. His eyelids lowered further. There was no reason to open them. The darkness, rain, and bed all felt gentle. His body no longer seemed separate from the mattress. He could not clearly tell where his back ended and where the bed began. He was slowly dissolving into the softness beneath him. Like cotton soaked in water. Settling quietly downward, Daniel's body sank deeper into the warm bed. A little farther, a little heavier, completely supported. He remembered the low vibration of the bus. The seat had carried him home. Now the bed was carrying him somewhere deeper, more softly than the bus, more warmly. He no longer thought about where he needed to arrive. He had already arrived. There was no next stop, no bus waiting, no final suitcase to lift, no voice through the radio. Only rain, a warm blanket, and breathing that continued to slow in and slowly out. In again, and longer out. With every breath, his body moved farther into the mattress. Thoughts became slower. A thought took longer to form, then it disappeared before reaching its end. Rain filled the empty space. It fell over the roofs of Singapore, over the trees, over the wet roads, and quietly beyond Daniel's window. The city could continue. The airport could keep working. Aircraft could fly, and the bus could return toward the airport. Daniel did not need to follow any of it. He had reached home. He was beneath the blanket. He had traveled far enough. There was nowhere else to go. No next stop. No final bag. And nothing left to complete. Only deep rest remained. The rain continued, softly. evenly, as though heard from very far away. Daniel's breathing became slower. His body was warm. His eyelids were heavy. The bed held all of his weight. There was nothing more to think about, nothing more to wait for. Only the warmth of the blanket, the rain beyond the window, and the dark becoming deeper. Daniel sank into it very slowly, a little deeper, and deeper still, until even the rain became distant, warmly, quietly, completely.